Hey crafters, it's Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and today we're putting together Santa's Workshop. This one's a real cozy little project. It's kind of our vision of where all the Christmas magic happens. We've got layered rooftops, candy striped awnings, and plenty of little details that bring it to life. Now it's nothing too fancy, just good, solid paper crafting fun, and like all of our projects, if you take your time, enjoy the process, before you know it, you'll have something really special. Let's get started. All right, so for those of you that have made structures and buildings with us before, you know that we always include a little base just to keep your project nice and safe. Inside of your download, you'll find one of these. Now, if you don't want to cut it, that's fine. This measures at 11 by 11, I believe. Yep, it's maybe just a hair shy. But if you cut 11 by 11, you'll be fine, and then you don't have to waste a piece of paper, but we always include it because that's just what we do. So what I typically do, just to make this easier, is I'll take the template and put it right on top of my foam core, and with a nice thin little pen or marker, well, right now I've got it in the corner, so I'm saving two cuts here and one here. Just using what I already have done for me to save time, okay? And that's basically as good as a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock for the most part, okay? And we're just gonna cut this because we're gonna need it to help sturdy up our base. Try to keep your blade, well, first off, make sure it's sharp. Mine's kind of Try to keep it straight. If you do it at an angle, sometimes it gets a little wonky. So just try to keep it nice and straight up and down. I think it is probably time for me to replace this blade. Probably done some weird things with it. Okay, so that's that. Use your template to create your 11 by 11 foam core, which we're going to use to build our little platform for this guy. Okay, so there's that. Platform is made up of this piece here, and you'll see a series of little score marks as well as the letter F. F stands for front, and then there's another piece, same size, that's got nothing on it. That's going to be your bottom, okay? Then we also have 4 of these. These are going to make up the walls of our platform, okay? And the first thing we need to do to get the process going is, well, let's take a sip of coffee and get moving here, okay? So you'll notice that these 4 pieces are identical since this is a square base, and you'll notice a little tab at one end. And with these little tabs here, they're pretty small, they're doing a lot of heavy lifting, so we just want to make sure that we are patient with these pieces while they dry. Grab the next piece and line it right up onto that little guy there, give it a press. And once it has its initial hold, go ahead and take it and fold this piece onto itself. And just make sure that these edges here line up. It's essentially just kind of mirrored right on top of itself. It's the same piece, okay? So we're gonna leave this one sit for a minute. We're gonna take the other 2 and do the same thing. Go ahead and put a little bit of glue on that tiny tab. Nice and thin. The thinner, the quicker. And we're going to line this one up like so, just like we did the first time. Give that a quick press and hold. And then grab it, fold it on itself, just make sure it all lines up nicely. Looks like I had a little snag there on the score marks, which is fine. I can clean that off. Okay, so we've got one half and the other half. We're going to take this half now and we're going to connect it and make it all one solid piece. Whoops. There we go. Let's get our glue on this tab. Thin that out. I'm going to put this down flat just like I did the first time. Grab the other 2 sections that are glued together and pop that right into place. Make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, and then you can take it, again, just like we did, fold it on itself. Make sure it's good and straight. And just do yourself a favor and let those tabs really get a hold. They're very delicate. And that one looks okay. And then we will ultimately join this together. So give it a nice easy flip. Bring one side in. I'm just keeping this as flat as I can while that glue really sets. Okay, so this is the side that has the last tab. Let's go ahead and place our glue on that tab. And then what we should be able to do here is take the other end, flip it over. I'm just flipping it in, and it should match up perfectly with that piece for the most part. Okay, just press that in place and hold it. Make sure it's sitting right on top of the one underneath it. Might feel a little wonky, but it's okay. It's just a simple base. Okay, give that a moment to really set. I think I might have had some of that glue kind of squirt out and might be grabbing the layer underneath a little bit. That's fine. There we go. Okay, square it out. And then go ahead and take and fold the bottom tabs under. You know, obviously you want to pre-fold this before you start gluing, because if you haven't yet pre-folded, you're probably going to end up pulling these apart. Okay, just fold those tabs under. And then what I'm going to suggest you do, since this piece is pretty delicate, is take your 11 by 11 piece and pop it in there, your foam core. And now we've got it to a point where this foam core is going to kind of help keep things mostly sturdy for us. Let's make sure it fits in there good. There we go. Make sure it's nice and flat within the parameters of this piece here. There we go. Bring those in. And these little angles here should pretty much meet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom one. This is the one that does not have any markers on it. That's going to be your bottom. We're going to put that in place first. So pick a tab, any tab. Like I said, this is square, so it doesn't really matter. And let's spread that glue out to the very edge. We're going to take this piece without any of the score marks on it. We're going to anchor it to this tab first. So get that centered and also right out to the very edge. Like so. Press that down. And don't worry about these just yet. Now the cool thing is you've got that foam core in there to kind of help you gives you something to press up against. Makes gluing a lot easier. Okay, so that's in. Now we're just going to kind of let it fall back and flip it around. Now I'm going to take and apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs. And don't worry too much if you don't get this perfect. It's a lot of real estate to cover here. We can always go back in and clean it up after the fact. My biggest concern right now is just closing this up. So focus on this side first. Make sure it's butted up against the very edge of this side, and then take the other sides and kind of push them in a little bit. So that all lines up nicely. Same with this side. Push that in. And you should have a nice, at least one side so far, nice flat base. Nice sturdy base. And we're going to put some fake snow on this thing as well. So and there's also a little fence. So if there's any little imperfections, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay. Now, I'll flip this over. This is going to be our top. Let's see what we got going on here. That's fine. Okay, so find the side that looks the cleanest. I'm going to go with this side here. And then look for the letter F. This is your front. This is my best side, I think. And we're, again, going to anchor it to one side. Go ahead and apply your glue to the side that you want to be in the spotlight here. It's going to be front and center when you're displaying your little house. Okay, make sure that F is facing forward. And we do the same thing here. Get that lined up nice and center right out to the very edge of that tab. There we go. And press that down. Make sure it's getting a good hold from left to right. That looks good and centered to me. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing. Once we know it's got a good grip, we'll let it drop very gently. Hold this up so it doesn't come away from where it's glued. And then we're going to apply glue to the remaining 3 sides. Okay, do your best. I'm not going to worry about spreading this glue out to the very edges right now, just because there's a lot going on here. And since it's white, you don't really have to worry about what it's going to look like if glue spills out. Now focus on getting this side nice and anchored, or glued down, I should say. Okay. There we go. And then if you have to kind of push in the sides a little bit, that's totally normal. And just press that down all the way around. There we go. And just keep pressing. Check your seams. Make sure you don't have any obnoxious gaps anywhere. And there we go. Okay, so there's our beautiful platform. Awesome. All right, next up is our little fence. Okay, so here's what you're going to notice. We made this fence 2 layers, and one of these cutouts has a little tab, so to speak. It's a continuation of the fence, but it does have a little tab element, as does this one. And these 2 are the exact same length. And then there's 2 that are the exact same length without tabs. Okay, and we're going to glue the one without tabs on top of the one with tabs to double it up. So, you know what, let's just do that first. And now this is, well, it's a very, very, very detailed piece. So you're going to have to do your best. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to get glue on every single little detail on here, but I am just going to kind of do a little zigzag on this, because obviously you're not going to get glue in the empty spots. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And do not get glue on those tabs. You just want to pop this piece right on top of the section in between those tabs, and just do your best to line that up as accurately as you can throughout. Get that good and centered. Once it is, you can pop that down and press down, because we have glue along the entire bottom and top, and then just a few little drops here and there throughout the center. Should be plenty to hold this thing together. Just make sure you don't have any gaps along the main part of it. That looks good. And then if you want, what I would do is put this underneath your mat so it dries nice and flat. And then we're going to repeat the same process with the other one that's this length. Okay. So we'll go ahead and apply glue to the length of this thicker part. Just a relatively thin line of glue all the way down. And then you can kind of pick it up and just very lightly do like a hovering zigzag. So you get a little bit of glue here and there. Okay, and then again, make sure you avoid the little tab. We're going to use that to join the adjacent section to it. By the way, I don't think I've ever done this before, but I actually timed how long it took me to cut everything out. I would be curious if you guys did the same thing, how long it took you guys to cut it out. I actually took a screenshot of my phone, and it was 2 hours and 11 minutes to cut it out. And that was with my Juliet, my Caesar Juliet. Okay, I'm gonna put this underneath my mat and let it dry flat. And then there are, again, we are doubling everything up. So you're gonna find the pieces that are similar in length. And this one here, this one's gonna be towards the front of the house, which is why there's kind of a, well, it's finished off on one end. So make sure you just line that up correctly. And we'll just do a little zigzag throughout it, especially right there. And this one's going to be a lot easier to work with since it's smaller. So this style of fence, I think, complements the Bavarian sort of style of Santa's workshop. I'm going to put that underneath my mat as well. I know, why not? Let the mat do some work for once. Actually, it does quite a bit for me. And we'll do the same thing to this one. And the fence is pretty straightforward. Once we have them all glued together, we're just going to go through and glue it to the side of our base that we just created. Sorry, I'm trying to think about like 4 different things right now. There we go. That's lined up nicely. Press that down. And it's just nice that it's white. Sort of automatically will avoid any silly blemishes that you may run into. Okay, and this one's pretty dainty. Pretty easy. Now this one, obviously, it's only going to go on one way, so be careful. Make sure you got it lined up properly. This one I don't think we need to put under the mat. It's relatively small, and that just leaves this little guy. So you get the idea here, but as usual, I'm going to be thorough and try not to miss anything. Try to cover the entire assembly. Hope everyone had a nice 4th of July. We're a little behind schedule as this house took pretty much just as long as Frostwood Manor, and I did not expect that. But, you know, live and learn. We've learned some things in the process. It's one thing about what we do. It seems like you think one day you got it all figured out, but you don't. There's always challenges that kind of come up. All right, so let's do this now. Let's grab all these pieces and get them out. Pop them on your mat. And as I mentioned, okay, so remember this is the front, okay? Now this guy here, this is the one with tabs. The thicker side is going to get glued to this part here, okay? Now obviously these 2 long sides are going to go like this. So I'm just going to set this up so you can see it, okay? So that's going to go there. Now the back, we kind of wanted to avoid having too much in the back, just because you're going to want to get your hand in and out of there to, you know, grab or put in your light, and we don't want to make it so that you could potentially damage anything. So there's 2 pieces like this that have this nice finished section here. There's a shorter one, and then there's a slightly longer one. And you can see from here to this point here, this is the walkway. This one's going to go here. This shorter one is going to go here, okay? And then this little tiny guy is going to go right here in the back left corner. And then this guy is going to go right here in the back right corner, okay? So that's how we're going to attach this. But we're going to start by gluing the long pieces in place first. And to do that, we simply will be applying glue to the full length of this side here. And of course, I need to clean out my glue bottle. I think that will be okay though. And obviously I changed the position of it, so it's no longer on the side, it's facing me now, but that's okay. So push that up against the side. Make sure these tabs are making contact with the back and the front. And then go ahead and give that a push and let that set. Okay, once it's kind of got mostly a hold, you can kind of pick it up and make sure it's flush with the table. And that is nice and sturdy. Beautiful. Okay, see it's kind of curved in a little bit, but it's not gonna make or break it. That's a very nice fence. I wish I had a fence like that around my house. Maybe a little taller though, in which case it might look weird. And of course my cat will probably still figure out how to get out, but okay. Then on this little tab here, we do want to put a little bit of glue at the bottom of this little tab and then press that up against the back. Okay, hold that in place. And then what you can do is go ahead and put glue on that little tab. Yeah, and I will be pausing here in a minute to clean this off. And then you're going to go ahead and make sure that this matches up first. It's only going to work one way. That's the way there. And then throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of this. Okay, we're going to put the thick part onto the actual base, and the rest of it should match up with the little tab from the previous part of the fence. You're going to push that right onto that little tab, as well as the bottom of the base. Just hold that in place. Okay, my fingers are a little sticky. There we go, just like that. Just kind of finishes it off, makes it look nice. All right, so now we can head on over to, well, let's put this one in place here. This one's gonna go like this. Okay, so check and make sure that matches up with that little piece. Okay, and then we're gonna apply glue to the thicker part of the fence here at the bottom. Of course, now it's coming out like Niagara Falls, which is okay. And we'll throw a little bit of glue on this tab. I'm gonna have to get used to the flow of this now. And match that up with the tab from the fence on that side, and then press this down onto the face of the base, and it should match up right there perfectly. Just press that down. I'll give this a little squeeze for good measure. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's let that set. Let's try not to mess with it too much. Okay, and then one thing I need to double check here is to make sure that that matches up in the front and that this matches up in the back, and it does. Okay, so we're going to take the other long end, or long side, and we're just going to do a nice line of glue right along the thick part of the fence. Move this out of the way, and just kind of look at where the tabs are. Make sure that those are nice and centered, that they go over the front and the back. And then once that's true, you can go ahead and push it up against the side. And by all means, use your table to help you. It should be flush with the table as well. Shouldn't be any gaps there. Just like that. Give it a few moments to set. There we go. That's nice. Wish we had like little tiny string lights that we could put on that fence to make it all festive. And you know what? Honestly, I should know better. Should probably just hop on Amazon and do a search for that, because it probably exists. Yeah, and I'm just not used to the flow on this glue bottle since I cleaned it. So of course, my glue is just coming out like crazy. I'm gonna press this little tab up against the front. Okay, and then we'll take this little guy, no, that's not the one. It's this one here. And he's gonna go on like that. Okay, so let's throw a little bit of glue right there. Okay, and then don't forget to you need to put some glue on the thick part of this guy. Okay, and we'll press that onto the tab as well as the bottom part of the base, making sure it's flush. I'm going to put this down on my surface in just a second. I just want to make sure that I've got this lined up properly. Give that a little press. There we go, drop that down. Make sure it's making contact with your table. Perfect. That looks great. Okay, there we go. And that just leaves the back. I'm gonna flare this open, throw a little bit of glue behind that tab, push that over onto that surface, and hold that for a moment. There we go. And then finally, take this little guy. We're gonna put him on just like that. So just like we've been doing, a little bit of glue onto the actual tab. And then glue on the very bottom here, the thicker part, like so. Match it up with the little tab there on the fence. Make sure it's flush with the base. And just get that little squeeze. And there you go. Hold that down, and voila. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of cut off there at the back, but again, over the years, I've just kind of made the decision to, well, use incandescent or, you know, continuous lights, not LEDs. I'm kind of over the whole LED thing. There are some good ones out there, but the ones that fit our projects, they're not that great. They put off weird colors. I have a little section of fence here that did not take very well. I just got a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just going to paint a little bit of glue in that little area where it didn't take, and I'll press and hold that down. Just kind of go in and fix it a little bit. I don't want it to be coming off. And you can do that at any point during the assembly process. But that is beautiful, and that's actually a white pearlescent paper. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of some of the little tedious little tasks here, do a little story time while we do so. This is the desert sand color, okay? And the desert sand color, what we're gonna do, what I want you to do is just kind of separate some things, okay? Now, anything that has score lines like this and tabs like this, including this and this, anything with tabs, you're gonna put off to the side. Like this has tabs, this has tabs, 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 tabs. Okay, those are all gonna go into a pile. This one also has a tab, that one has a tab. These do not have tabs. These are gonna be your panels, okay? And you'll notice that the panels have a series of markers all over the place, okay? And what these markers are little individual locations for, and I did not ink that one, okay? I'm gonna have to ink that, that's okay. These are little individual locations for these bricks, okay? And some of these bricks, you'll notice, have little score marks on them. If they have score marks on them, we're gonna save those for later. Okay, right now, all we're focused on is taking the ones without score marks and placing them into these little sections here where you see the marks, the full marks. Okay, it's gonna add some nice detail to your project, but take the ones that have little score marks and put them off to the side. Those are gonna go on later on once the structure is mostly assembled, and those are gonna be little corner pieces. Okay, so we obviously can't put those on just yet because, well, we don't have the corners assembled. Okay, so what we're gonna do is just kind of neatly go through each little piece, find the ones that are completely within the confines of the piece, and glue a little brick to each of the little markers. Yay. A little tedious, but cool. It's gonna look awesome, trust me. All right, so that one's done. And in the meantime, that's all we're doing here. So you can pause me here and fast forward. The next thing we're gonna do actually is begin assembling the base. So when you see me reach for one of these pieces with the score marks on them, that's your cue to continue playing and continue the assembly. You don't have to follow along with me here, as this is pretty repetitive, but I thought it would be a good place to just chat a little bit. So it's up to you if you want to stick around. But yeah, so we are in, well, I guess We had the solstice, which means that, again, as it happens every year, less and less light. That one's done. That looks great. And I did ink these, okay? So I inked the edges of this, inked the edge of that, as well as all the little bricks, of course, because I am crazy. But yes, I did. Had a good 4th of July at a friend's lake house. And I don't know if you guys saw, I brought my drone and I kind of shot the fireworks from the sky, and it turned out really cool. So if you didn't see that, I think I posted it in the group. So that was fun. Got a lot of sun, got some sunburn on my nose, which pretty much happens every year. You think by now I'd know better. There's that one. Okay, just going down the row here. Now this one here, that one is cut off, so we're not going to touch that one. There are special, actually, you know what? We can. Yeah, there is one like that. That one's going to go right there. So I might have to edit that out. Might have to edit out the part where I told people to skip ahead, because they probably shouldn't. Okay, so that brick's going to go right in there. Just make sure it's flush with this edge here. We don't want it obstructing anything when we get to that point. But again, anything with a score mark, leave it for later. Okay, we're not going to put those on just yet. Any of these little bricks with score marks. They're all the same size as they should be, because if someone's building you a brick house, I guess there's situations where the bricks are different sizes. That gets kind of wonky, but for the most part, these are all the same. So the 4th of July was nice. I had I invented a new way to fish. So that one's good. This one here, this is going to take a little corner piece. So don't put anything on that one. Put that one off to the side. Okay. There's one with a score mark. So what I did was I have this little floaty. It's a giant red noodle. It's probably about, I don't know, 3 feet long. And I just sit in the middle of it. So part of it kind of dangles in front of me. Part of it dangles behind me. And I sit in the middle of it. And I can swim on it. So I don't have to, you know, wear a life jacket or worry about doing any work in the water. I can just kind of float. And I said, this time I was like, well, why don't I just bring my fishing pole while I'm on this thing? Peyton and the kids, they were all playing on the beach. Brought the fishing pole. And, you know, it's pretty interesting fishing on a noodle. Because when you do catch something, you kind of go along for a ride with that fish. So I probably spent, boy, I don't know, 5 hours doing that. I could probably do that all day. Very monotonous. But, you know, best place to be in the water when it's super hot like that, or best place to be when it's super hot like that is in the water, of course. So I was like, well, you know what, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Why should I be fishing from the shore? Because there's a little man-made lake. I think it's called Castle Rock, Illinois, just north of the Wisconsin Dells, or not Illinois, Wisconsin, sorry. And you can have little tiny pontoons on there, but you know, you're limited to how much power you can have. So this little guy is going to go right here. Okay, he's chopped off there. Just throw a little bit right there. And again, this is just a little panel, and this is not a corner piece because there's no corner on this section. There's just the edge of the face of this piece. So there's your bricks for that one. And we're just going to keep on cruising down the row here until we get all of these little pieces eliminated. So that was fun. A couple weeks before that, what was that? Yeah, it was a week before that. Went up to Eagle River, Wisconsin again. Peyton really officially caught his first fish, which we got a picture of. It was really cute. He's actually very patient, almost. I mean, for a 2-year-old. There were times where he would just sit there and watch his bobber. I'd say maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes, tops, which I think attention span for a 2.5-year-old is pretty good. And, you know, he's cracking jokes. He's like, oh, I think I got one. I think I got one. Really cute. But yeah, we've got, I think, 30, kind of sad that I know this, but 33, 34 more days until school starts up again, which, you know, thank goodness for Mom. She stays at home with them, and the kids are lucky. They do so much. She does stuff with them every day. Really good mom, but I'm sure it's kind of wearing on her a little bit. But, you know, like that country song goes, you're going to miss this. You know, as much as you want them to kind of be a little more independent, as soon as they do, I'm sure you kind of change your tune a little bit. All right, so we got another little corner piece here, just like that. And that is just a little marker for later. It's like 4 little dashes in the shape of a square, so don't worry about that. We don't need to worry about that for anything just quite yet. And again, just going down the row here. Now these markers are not for the bricks, okay? This is for these little support pieces, which we'll build later. So this one doesn't actually take any bricks. We can put that off to the side. This is the back. This is where you're gonna open this up and put your little light in there. So again, keep your eye out for the little bricks that have score marks on them. Do not use those. We just want the nice flat ones with no score marks. Okay, I'm just gonna pop those in place, like so. Should be pretty straight. Do your best if they're a little cockeyed. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but the markers are there to help you, so definitely utilize them. There we go. Perfect. And now we are, yeah, we're just kind of in the heat of the summer, but you know, usually when we make this turn, okay, and this, again, this guy here, this little corner piece, we're gonna worry about that later, since it's kind of halfway. I'm gonna put that off to the side. We're done with that for now. Let's grab this guy. That's a half piece, that's a half piece, that's a whole piece. Okay, and I think, yeah, I'm not gonna put that on just yet. Just get the whole pieces in place. Peyton's gonna be 3 in November, which means that I think by the time he turns 5, he'll be too late to actually get into kindergarten. So we still have our little baby for about 3 more years, thank God. By the way, here, you'll notice that the markers for the bricks are spaced out a little bit further. There's a couple 4 markers here, again, for these little support pieces. So don't get that mixed up when you put these down. Okay, you want to find the ones where the bricks fit perfectly. It would not fit in between those. Okay, so there's one, there's a half brick. There's one with a score mark, so don't worry about that. And yeah, aside from that, I'm going to be visiting Creative Fabrica headquarters in sometime in September, and actually going to Poland to visit my grandma and some family that I haven't seen basically ever. I have one living grandma left, and on my dad's side, we're going to go visit her. Peyton's going to get to meet his great-grandma. I think she's in her 80s now, so you know, it's not often I haven't been to Poland since I was born, 40-something years ago. It's wild. All right, so there's the markers here. Those are half bricks. We're going to worry about those later. And then, of course, I have this guy that I failed to ink, which means that I have to get my inks. And I guess I'll just kind of show you how I did it anyway. I used potter's clay for this color cardstock. That was weird. There's my potter's clay. I can tell this on it right here. That's potter's clay. And what I like to do, I've got this little felt applicator. You can usually take a look at the back of it and tell whether or not it's too much ink. If you're not sure, you can always kind of grab a scrap piece of paper and just do a little test drive to see how much ink is actually coming off of it. That is working well. And then my strategy here, usually where 2 points meet, I like to go a little bit heavier on the ink. So we got where 2 sections meet at a point or at a corner, I usually go a little bit heavier. I'm just trying to keep it subtle. I don't like to overdo it. There's a time and a place for that. I've said that a million times. Usually with Halloween, you can get nutty. I mean, you can even get nutty with this. I just prefer a nice soft look to my inking. Okay, and we're gonna go over here as well. So again, this is a little point where 2 sections meet. Probably go a little bit heavier there. I'd venture to say that whatever happens in nature where you've got little areas that meet like that, for some reason they weather differently than just a flat surface. So I like to kind of beat that up a little bit more. Okay, and then I just work the perimeter here. And then ultimately, I am going to want to get some on these 2 sides as well, because otherwise it might look kind of weird without it. I'm going to push down a little heavier. I don't feel like I'm getting enough ink on there. Now, you can see the number of strokes I'm applying to each little section. Now, it's important to note, when you get a new ink pad, like one of these, that ink might come off real heavy onto your applicator. You can take a look and you'll see. So don't get cocky and start inking like I am without checking to see how much is actually coming off. This is not a brand new ink pad. It's been used many, many times, which is why it's kind of coming on soft, which I actually prefer. You know, it's almost like I don't really like a brand new glue bottle. I don't really like brand new ink. I kind of like things that are a little used up a little bit. Okay, going around here. And basically inked everything I could on this project. So I've got the perimeter. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fold this. And another thing, I'm kind of throwing a lot of information at you here, but one thing we decided on with this bundle is with the solid score lines, there's certain sections that we did not include solid score lines for because it was pretty much pointless. Now, one thing you can argue is that, well, sometimes it saves time. Okay, I get it. But does it? Because you got to swap the tool out. So it kind of made an executive decision with some of the pieces not to include solid score lines. This one does have some. If it can potentially impact the overall aesthetic, we created solid score lines for it. If it's a structural piece that's never going to see the light of day because something's covering it up, we did not include solid score lines for that, and that is actually going to be to your benefit. And the reason I say that is because when you're making structures like this, the perforated score lines actually make it a lot easier to match things up and get things to work correctly. Okay, so there's that. Now, just need to add our bricks. You can see this is one of the corner bricks here. I've got a few left. This one is a full one. And we'll see how well I did locating and placing the bricks and see how many I have left over that have score marks. Technically, I should have, well, I have too many. I have one too many, which means that I may have missed one. That's okay. Either that or we gave you an extra one in case you lose it. Like, sometimes you buy something that you have to assemble, and I always worry when I have screws left over. I feel like I goofed something up, but I'm hoping that the good people that put everything together kept that extra one in there in case you lose one. Okay, and there's our corner pieces. We're not going to do anything with that. So I have 2 left. All right, we'll see. Just hold on to them. We'll probably figure out where they go. Okay, so we're going to leave these for later. Once the building's assembled, we'll put our little final bricks into place. Don't lose them. Okay, so we have that done. In the meantime, one other simple thing we can do here is assemble the Santa's Workshop sign. Okay, and that is pretty straightforward. It works just like all of our other dimensional, or all of our stuff that involves lettering. So what we're going to do is we're going to take I'm going to take this white piece, I'm going to put it on top of the solid brown piece. So I'll go ahead and flip it over. Now, first off, let me explain something real quick. Make sure that you're putting glue on the right side. So when you take the piece that actually has the letters cut out, the cutouts on the white should match up with the A and the O and the P, okay? So you want to put this on like that. Make sure that those little cutouts are in the correct position and orientation. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a mess. All right, let's get this right on here, like so. Just like that. I don't know what that was. And then finally, got a nice something on there. I don't know what that was. Get your glue on the main part of it. I was going to emboss this with a wood grain until I realized that the letters they're a little delicate, and I just knew that if I ran like this little part of the H and the K and that little part of the R and the W, if I ran that through an embossing machine, it would rip it up. So I didn't even bother. I've made that mistake too many times. I'm not going to bother. Won't even risk it, okay? And then this just goes right on top like this. And there's your beautiful sign. So, you know, since I couldn't emboss it, once I have it together, depending on how it looks, I may just go crazy with the ink, you know? Because unless Santa's out there taking the sign down every year and sanding it and restaining it, it's going to be beat up a little bit. And that'll give it some nice character. So there's our sign. And that is good to go. Just make sure everything is making good contact. Beautiful little sign. Actually, I think Mike helped with the design on that one. I actually helped a little bit with this as well. There we go. All right, so the sign's good to go. And now we're going to start putting together the bottom part of our structure. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to kind of start putting together the bottom of our structure. But before we do, there are a few things that we can kind of get out of the way. First off, we have a little planter. There's a green layer and a red layer, and the red layer is just for the little holly and the berries. By the way, there's two planters, one for the second floor, one for the first floor. This one here, you can see the difference in the width. Okay, the wider one is going to go on the bottom floor. All right, so all we need to do here is apply our glue to the darker green piece and get that on top of the red piece. There's one tiny little, very delicate piece. Try not to rip that off. Actually, maybe two. Just very gently, not a lot of glue. Let's get that in place. Just match up the bulk of it. Whoops. There's that little delicate piece. Just be careful. Okay, and then we're going to take this is forest green, and that's going to go right on top of this guy here. Just match that up so that just the hunter green is showing. You could technically foam square that if you want, but I'm not overly concerned about adding dimension to that. That looks great. So this is B1. This is B2. Don't mind that. B2. Okay. Then we have a B3. There's a B3 on this one here. And this is also B3 because this is going to be extruded out of there. And then you're going to have a B4. 4 is 4 little dashes in the shape of a square. Okay, so it's 4-sided, and these are the sections you need. And this also is part of B2, but we'll get to that when we need to. So you're going to have it laid out like this. But for now, let's focus on the vellum real quick. Okay, so this one here, this is B1. And we're going to flip this over, and this is the piece that's going to go on first, like so. But what I want you to do, if you're planning on using the little scene, you can see here I've got a series of little elves that are working on some toys. Okay, what we're going to do actually is glue these two together. So I'm just going to work the perimeter here. Most of this will not be visible, so it doesn't matter. Just want to try to keep it around the perimeter as much as possible, and take the blank one and put that on top because we want this to be nice and diffused. And you try to line this up as accurately as you can. So you've got 2 layers of vellum, you've got a frosted window, and then the elves right through it, sort of diffused like a frosty glass. Okay, and then we're going to glue this back here, and we want the elves to be centered. And you see how it's cut off there on the elves? We want that right at the bottom so that they're just kind of like, just like that. Okay, so what I would suggest doing is actually just applying glue to the inside like so. Might help to kind of do it like this actually. Just try to get those elves centered, just like that. And then press that down. That way you can see exactly where everything is. And we know exactly where that vellum needs to go. And there you go. Okay, so there's our cute little scene on the inside. When the light hits that, well, let me see if it'll work with just a flashlight. Okay, so you can see how that's going to look. And now there's a structural awning on this, so we're not going to mess with that right now, but we can flip this around, okay, and find the vellum piece for that. Now this is the front door. There's another printable here. Okay, well, it got kind of lost, but anyway, so you can see how that one's going to go on. And again, we need to glue these 2 together. So we want this layer behind the front layer. And you're going to continue this process if you're using these little additional printouts. You just want to make sure that you glue them together and just line them up as flush as possible. It's cut off like that because that's the only part that's actually going to be visible through the window. I did that strategically so you don't waste a bunch of ink. Okay, but this one's going to go right here. And when we glue this down, you just want to make sure that, again, it's like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll apply our glue to the inside of this, like so. And then with the softer side facing you, go ahead and take this piece now and just line that up with the cutout. And there we go. Okay. And there you have it. Okay, so that's section 2. And then the little extrusion here, this is where the door and the little window above the door are going to go. We have little pieces of vellum for that. And just do a little circle there for the small one. And pop that in place. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then another little circle here for this guy. That's just to diffuse the light, make it nice. Okay, so that is going to go here eventually. Okay, so the next thing we can do is get a couple more pieces out of the way here. We have these 2 panels, these 3 panels with corresponding little window panes. Let's go ahead and get those glued into place. Of course, my glue's going nuts. It's okay. If that ever happens to you, just very gently use your finger to kind of thin that glue out so it doesn't go shooting all over the place. Luckily, right now, it's not a big deal because there's really nothing for it to blemish or upset. But let's get this lined up like so. Okay, so that is good to go. We're going to put that on there eventually. In the meantime, let's get this one set up. And then there's some vellum for this part of the house that we need to get going. As I mentioned, if you are going to create a scene on all of the sections, then you just want to follow the instructions that we just went through for each of the sections. Just make sure that you glue both layers of vellum together and that you line it up with the window so that just that part that needs to be visible is visible. You have the orientation and the layout accurate as you can. Probably should have bled it a little more, but I think it's fine. Okay, so there's that panel. We'll get to that in just a bit. Okay, so we can get these three pieces of vellum in place here. And again, don't forget to repeat that layering process with the vellum if you're adding a scene here. This one's going to have, I believe we have some Christmas trees for this one. Totally optional, but definitely a nice little touch. Okay, I'll press that in place. There we go. And then let's get these two in place. This glue nozzle is goofy today. There we go. It's okay to be a little messy on this section. It's not really, again, once you have this all put together, no one's really going to be looking inside here. And if they do, it's okay. You know, if you've ever looked at how a house was built and you look behind the walls and things of that nature, it's not always so pretty. Okay, all right, so that's going to go here. We've got panels here. Okay, I think that's it for now as far as vellum for the first floor. So let's go ahead and start kind of putting together this bottom section. As I mentioned here, we have B1 and this is B2. We're going to join these together right here. Okay, so go ahead and apply your glue to tab B1. Let's smooth that out to the very, very edge of that tab. Put this down flat, grab the next layer, and let's line that up like so. Press that down. There we go. And you can take it and fold it on itself and check that angle right there for those two tab sections. It should match up perfectly. Okay, there's 1 and 2. Okay, next we're going to grab piece 3, B3. Now again, there's two B3s. There's this one, and then there's this one, but this is the one we need to connect here. Okay, so go ahead and flip this like this, and apply your glue to tab B2. All right, you can put that down on your surface. Grab this piece, again with the B3 written on it. Line that up as accurately as you can. You want these horizontal score marks from each of these sections to match up right here. Okay, I can tell that I'm pretty much spot on. Go ahead and fold it over on itself. And you can look at these tabs here, and those should line up nicely. The angle on both of these, and this top should be pretty much flush with the top of this tab back here. Okay, so it's essentially 4 sides, but then we have a few extrusions, which creates more walls for the house, but for the most part, it's 4 sides. Now this is B4. The 4 is 4 little dashes in the shape of a square, and this one's going to go like this. Okay. So let's go ahead and apply our glue to tab B3. I don't know if you guys have a Portillo's where you live. It's kind of a Chicago thing, but when you go and dine there, you get a number, and they figured out how to make a rhyme out of every number. Maybe I could start doing that with my tabs here. So if you're like number 43, I don't know what they say for 43, like number 42, this one's for you. Number 45, it's time to dine, or something like that. I can't really rhyme it right now, but you get what I'm saying. Pretty corny, but very memorable, obviously. Okay, so piece 4 is now connected. There we go. All right, that's going to be a little wobbly, but here you can see what it's going to look like eventually. And then we've got an extrusion coming out here and then out here, but we do need to close this up now. So what you want to do is take some glue and put it on B4, or the one with the 4 dashes in the shape of a square. Okay, now I don't think this is perfectly square, so I don't think you're going to be able to lay this down. Are you? Maybe it is square. No, it's definitely not. That's okay. All right, so we got to kind of do this in the air, like so. Get that lined up. Perfect. What we can do is take it and fold it like this. Even though the whole thing won't fold perfectly, you can fold it on this corner to push that down and get that to connect neatly. Okay, beautiful. All right, so things are starting to happen here. And we can flatten these bottom tabs out so that it sits flat for us. And make sure your seams are nice and clean. All right, cool. So now we need to build the little extrusion portions. So this is our first little extrusion. These tabs, we're gonna flare these up towards us, the outer ones. Okay, as well as this guy here, I believe, yep. Oh no, that one's gonna stay like that, that's fine, okay. And then these are gonna stay in. So here's what we need to do. You need to take this piece here with the tab here, and we're gonna glue it to this tab here, like so. Spread that out nice and thin. Move that out of the way, just briefly. Tuck that under, line it up. And there we go. You can actually put that down on your surface and press down from the inside. Okay, and then we're gonna bring this down. We're gonna close this up like so. That was not a good fold there. Okay, so we can take and apply glue to these 2 tabs up at the top, like so. And let's get that out of the way while we spread that out nice and thin. Right there, like so. Then go ahead and line that up. Make sure it's good and flush on both sections, front and top. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so there's our extrusion. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna pop it in here like so. And then these tabs are gonna get glued to the inside of this section. But definitely use your table to help you with the placement. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put glue on these 2 tabs here. You don't need to be all crazy with the glue here. Just do a nice little line. No need to spread it out or anything. Lift those tabs up. Make sure it's good and centered on there. And then press those tabs up against the inside of the building. Make sure that you've got it nice and centered. There's a little point here, and there's obviously the peak of the roof. Those should match up. And then just give that a few seconds to really set. Okay, that should pretty much anchor it. Okay, and then that leaves these 2 tabs here. You got one on each side to anchor this to right here. Just do a little line of glue here. Don't need to get crazy. I'm going to, you can technically lay this part down flat. Don't push over there though. Make sure it's up as far as it'll go. And you can press down like so. Just like that. Okay, so now that's glued into place. And then let's reveal this tab here. Put a nice thin line of glue on there. Fold it over. Okay. And this one's not as easy to do, but you can just push on it from the inside. Get that nice and lined up. Perfect. Okay, so there's that extrusion. And you can see bones of the house slowly forming. And that just leaves this extrusion here, which is made up of this piece, B3, okay? And much like we did with the other one, we're gonna start off on one of these wings here and just throw a little bit of glue on this. Spread that out to the very edge. Okay, then we're gonna tuck this in behind, like so. Get that lined up as accurately as you can. Nice and hot in here today. Crafting in this studio in the summer is, well, let's just say it's warm. Very warm. I've been thinking about getting LED lights in here, but well, they're kind of costly and they just don't look as good and they don't put out as much power. I'm waiting for the technology to get a little bit better. It might be there, but I'm not ready to splurge on that right now. Okay, so that one's going to connect like so, just like that. That. Okay, cool. These tabs down here are going to be used to kind of join the whole bottom together. These tabs are going to flare out. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. This other extrusion, this is going to pop out right here, like so. This little guy, he's going to get glued to the inside of this B3 piece, so I want to fold him up. He's going to go behind it, like that. But then these two vertical tabs, and I'm actually going to start by anchoring it to this tab here. Okay, so go ahead and just put a thin line of glue right on that section there. And don't worry about these tabs here. Just make sure this is good and centered. Okay, and that the very top edge of this is basically butted up to the score marks there. Make sure it's centered. Kind of almost still want to see the score marks ever so slightly. Make sure it's nice and flat on your surface. And just press that down so that it gets a good hold. I'll show you what it looks like from the inside. You can see, oh, can you? I don't know if you can. There we go. This tab right there is now connected to the red part. Then we're going to take these two red tabs here. This one here is going to get glued to the inside like so. It's kind of hard to show you. But remember, this piece has two little tabs. There's one right there that's going to get glued to the inside there. So what I would do here is, this might make more sense here. Okay, you can see that one tab here on my thumb and the other one on the other side. Go ahead and just put a little bit of glue on that, like so, right there. And then we're going to take that and fold it over onto the inside. Now, I'm going to do it from this angle here so I can make sure that it's nice and straight. And just run my finger down all the way to the bottom. That's making good contact. There we go. Okay, so you can see that tab now right there by my pinky is glued down. And we'll go over to the other tab, pull it in so you can apply a little bit of glue on it, like so. Then we're going to take it and fold it over onto the inside of this wall here. Just make sure it's right up against that wall. And if it helps, you can kind of hold it like this, but make sure it's flush right there. Okay. And just run your finger up and down that section there. And there we go. Okay. So, yep, the two extrusions are now in place. Pardon my head there. I want to make sure that that is making good contact. Okay, cool. All right, so what we're going to do next doesn't look straight, but this is why we have something called a skeleton piece. Okay. So you see these two funky looking shapes? They're a little flimsy, so we doubled them up, made them 2 layers. And all we're gonna do is glue one on top of the other. Okay, so flip one over and just get a little bit of glue on it. It's almost like you're doing one of those little maze puzzles. Try to figure out how to get out, but it's just an infinite loop, so I don't think you're really going to. And then just drop it right on top of the other one. And no one's ever going to see this piece, so if you get a little sloppy, now's the time to get it out of your system, but try to line this up as accurately as you can. Okay, like so. Press that down. And this piece is going to help us, it's going to give us something to glue those tabs to so that everything stays in place for us nicely. Okay, so you can see how this is going to work. This is our front door here. It's going to go like this. I'm going to pop that in there so that it fits the shape of the structure. Just like that. It should fit perfectly. Like that. And we're just going to go around the perimeter of the house and we're going to glue these tabs to this section here. Okay, so the best way to do this, I think, initially is find like the longest piece, which would be back here towards the back. And what I'm going to do is, let me move this out of the way. I'm just going to take and just do one tab at a time. Just do one little line of glue on that tab. Okay, and we're going to take this and again, just kind of fold it if you have to. Drop it in there. And then just press that down and just make sure that you got right angles in those corners there. Pardon my head if it's in the way. Try to butt that up to that very edge and press that down just like that. Okay, there we go. And then what I would do is head over to the other side here. And at this point you can kind of flip it over. We're going to do these 3 tabs next. Okay, so go ahead and put glue here. What's going on with this thing? I'm going to put glue on this tab here, just a little bit. This one here, and this one here. Doesn't have to be pretty. Fold them back over so that they're flat. Let's flip this back over, and then take that little skeleton piece and push it up against that front door as far as it'll go. Make sure that you don't really need to worry about the right angles on the corners just yet because, well, actually you do because we put glue on those tabs. Make sure you've got right angles. There we go. Okay, so now that's glued down. Now at this point, wait a second. Oh, I glued that side. This side is actually longer, but whatever. So speaking of that, let's go over here to the side where the elves are. And let's throw a little line of glue on this section here. I can fold that over now, drop that down, and then take that skeleton piece and push it up against that wall as far as it'll go. And again, make sure you've got some nice right angles there in the corners. There we go. I got some paper that's just kind of ripping off there. It's okay. Don't worry about that. All right, so we'll flip it over again. And now let's go over to this little porch section here. Let's flare these red tabs out. Apply our glue here, here, and here. Flare them back over. And then go ahead and push it in up against that skeleton piece. I'm doing the long side first, pushing down on the skeleton and then going over to the adjacent windows, trying to maintain those nice right angles. There we go. And that just leaves, we've got a few little tabs here. Why don't we just do these real quick, these little tiny guys. There's one there, maybe a little more glue there and there. Fold those over, flip it over. So we're just doing these little corners here. Push those in if necessary, and press them down. Do the same thing here. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, those are all good, and that just leaves this fella here. Throw a little glue on that. Pop that back down and press that down. And there we go. Now this thing ain't moving. And you've got a nice solid structure that is going to hold its shape, which is exactly what we want. Okay, now at this point, you can start doing some of the fun things. Okay, so let's get a few of the panels on. Now this is going to be the panel for this section here. Okay, and you can see where the inking is starting to come into play here. I'm not going to put any glue on the center of the window. I'm just going to focus on the perimeter of this panel. Throw it around there, around here. I think a straight line might make more sense. And then just kind of fill in the rest. Okay, we'll grab this and just kind of pop it over. Make sure it's good and flush with the top and the sides. Take a look at that. That looks good. And that looks good. And that looks good. Okay, so far so good. There we go. Okay, so one panel down, still sitting nice and flat for us. That's good. And what we can do here is we can put this panel on now for the front door. And that should fit on there perfectly. Okay, so just go ahead and apply your glue to this whole panel. Like so. Whenever possible, we try to make things like one piece. And just match this up on the front first. Make sure it's flush on the bottom and that it meets the... Let's get that in there first. There we go. That's nice and centered. And I need to just kind of, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so that panel's in place. So the front is good. Okay. And I just noticed that I have a little bit of a gap on my front door. I'll take a scrap piece of paper and just tuck it in between where I have the little gap, and then just press and hold that. Okay, so now we're going to go over here to the little patio area, and that's going to go on like this. Okay, this one's a little trickier because the thin area at the top kind of makes it so that it's not as rigid. So you just have to be a little extra careful when you pop it on there, but it shouldn't be too hard. Okay. And don't worry about making a mess right now because we have panels going on pretty much everything. Just slide that over. Okay, it should go right above the red part and slightly below the score marks. And then take a look at the sides. Should be flush to the bottom. And run your finger along the top. And then take a look at the other side. Just like that. Beautiful. Okay, cool. Looking good. All right, and then let's grab the panels for this. Now, we're gonna worry about the roof last. I just wanna get the bones of this thing put together, okay? Let's go ahead and put the sides on. So this one's gonna go here, obviously. And actually, no, we're gonna put the face on first. Just make sure that we have the orientation correct. I don't think it really matters which way it goes. No, it's symmetrical. So go ahead and apply your glue to this entire thing here, like so. And as intimidating as the roof looks, it's really not. It's just a lot of pieces that require some layering, but that's where the magic happens. So don't get intimidated by that. That's going to be fun. And of course, it'll probably be one of the last things that we do. So if you're worried, just put that. You can actually take this now, once we have it sort of in place, flip it onto the surface there, then push down from the inside so that we don't end up warping this thing or denting it or crushing it. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. All right, now I'm going to put the sides on. Those are going to go on like that. So go ahead and apply your glue. Get some right up all the way to that little corner. Okay, you want to push this up against the house as far as it'll go, but also make sure that you're matching it up with the little windows as well. And make it look as seamless as possible. Diana spent so much time on this to make sure that everything just looked perfect. And it took a little extra time, but it's always worth it. Sometimes I worry that we're going to fall behind, and sometimes we fall behind. What are you going to do? But not very many places make things as accurate as we do. She is probably one of the best, if not the best, in the industry when it comes to engineering these 3D buildings, or anything for that matter, when it comes to paper. Yeah, hot commodity. Okay. All right. And then go ahead and do the same thing with the other side. Just match up the little window panes first. There we go. And one thing that I love about Diana is, and this is how you know she's really good, she gets concerned about one thickness of paper. It's a common thing that we discuss. And what that basically means is, well, this section right here, this one thickness of paper makes it so that this window piece overlaps this piece and makes this seamless. It's like there's this company that builds cabins, like log cabin houses. And they are so meticulous about everything they do. She is just like that. Okay, we're gonna head over to this side here where we have our little elves. This one's pretty straightforward, there's nothing to it, but this panel does need to go down. Make sure that you get it in the correct orientation. Okay, very simple. Just match that up. Make sure it's flush with the bottom, most importantly, and then it meets up nicely with this side. Then you can take it and pop it down on your surface, push down from the inside. There we go. Get that to stick, and then we just have the back to get glued down. There we go. Okay, last piece. I think I've been cutting and inking and doing. Now don't forget to make sure you don't put any glue on this. This is your little door. This is your entryway for your light. Don't put any glue on that. Otherwise, well, it's not going to do anything because it's got nothing to stick to, for one. So don't waste your glue doing that. And we're going to keep this thing closed with a little bit of Velcro, as we usually do for our buildings. And this again has a cutout for a electric cord. so that if you are using a plug-in, a continuous light, I would recommend an LED. Although I actually have used incandescents, and I did the research. It says it's safe. You can actually put this down on the surface here and press down from the inside. There we go. Okay, so those panels are in place, and I think I'm going to pause here. All right, so we're at a point here. I want to start working on the face of the house, but before we do that, there's one piece on this side that needs to go on, and it's this piece here, okay? And the reason for that is because there's tabs here on each side. So this is going to go on like this, okay? I'm going to have to make sure that these tabs get glued to the adjacent sides, because that is going to set the stage for the other panel on the face. Okay, so that being said, let's just do this one section at a time. Let's do the main section first. Let's get the glue on there, nice and easy. Like so. And of course, the bottom of this should be flush with the bottom, and then just match up the little vertical posts of the window with the window, like so. Again, just kind of running my finger along the bottom, making sure it's in the correct spot. You can put this down on your surface and push down from the inside so we don't warp anything. There we go. And then I'm going to take these little tabs here, and we've added these tabs so that when you join these sections together, if there is anything slightly off, it will hide it. And let's get that glue out of there. Most of that will be hidden anyway, but still, I'm going to try to do our best. Okay, let's flip her over and let's get this tab glued in place as well. Don't need a lot of glue here, just a nice thin little line. And push that into place. Okay. All right, so heading back here. We can start, let's start with this red piece here. This is going to go on first. Okay, so that's going to go right over that, like so. And actually, remember when we were putting bricks down, there are 2 bricks with no score marks right there. So I thought I maybe had too many. We can get those in place right now, might as well. Just throw a little glue on there. You'll see the little markers. There's also one that goes onto a corner piece, but like I mentioned before, we're going to save that for later. You can just kind of do little finishing touches later. The other one goes right here, like so. And then we can flip this over and we'll apply glue to this piece in its entirety, like so. There we go. Of course, make sure that it is flush with the bottom, also that it matches up with that little cutout for the little window that's part of the door. And then of course, just make sure it's flush throughout. There we go. Beautiful. And we're just going to build the little layers here. Now this piece is going to go right here, like so. Should fit perfectly right over that window. Let's flip it over, apply our glue, and get it in place. This one's not too bad. Pretty fun little project, and then again, towards the end, We're gonna have a lot of little shingle pieces, but trust me when I say it's gonna be pretty straightforward. We wouldn't have it any other way. Make sure this piece is flush with the bottom. Should match up with the little window. And then you can see here, adding that little extra tab there just makes sure that we have a nice continuous green section. Awesome, that looks great. And then this little guy here, he's gonna go right here on this corner so that we can kind of continue that same little pattern there. Nice and easy with the glue. Make sure you get, there's one section that's a little bit thicker than the other. Obviously, you want to make sure that you get that lined up correctly. Make sure it's flush with the bottom. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Okay, another little piece, another little section that we can put on right now. Okay, you're gonna want to find these little strips that we cut out of mac and cheese. That's the name of the color. There's a few that we can put down right now, and these do have little score marks on them. Okay, so right in this section here, you'll find one of these little strips with 1, 2, 3 score lines, and we're just gonna fold it in this manner. And it's probably a good idea to just do this in little sections so that we don't mess it up. I'm just going to take this, the shortest part here that goes right here, and it's going to get glued right on top of the red. Flush though, just make sure it's nice and flush with that red. And take a look at the rest of it, make sure it's lined up correctly. There we go. And you can take this and just kind of flare it out so that you can have access to the underside. And let's just do a few little drops of glue, adding some nice little details. And that's going to go on the adjacent side here. Again, just make sure it's nice and flush with that red. Press that into place, like so. And then again, you can take it, kind of flare it back. Just make sure it's kind of continuing to follow that path. And you know what, for this one here, I think we can do the remainder of it. Get that lined up, flush with the green, and then continue on there. And there we go. Okay, so that little detail is in place. And let's take a look here. I believe that we're going to need this one here. This one has 2 score marks on it, and let's see if it fits. And of course it fits. That one's going to go there, just like that. So let's anchor it by the door on one of the shorter sections. Again, just make sure you keep it flush right underneath that red layer. Being very meticulous about this. This is where it counts. All these little details. Okay, so now that that's in place, go ahead and flare it back. And I think we can just put glue on the rest of it. Nice and thin. All right, bring that down. Line that up nicely. And press it into place. There we go. Okay, and actually before we, let's grab this last little piece. Now 3 of these pieces, you'll notice on one of the ends, it's kind of curved. We're going to save those for the back side because those are going to fit around little finger areas where our Velcro is going to be, but this last little piece needs to go in place here. Okay, so pop that. The shorter side is going to go on the face, and the longer side is going to go on this side here, where our little canopy is going to be. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to grab this yellow piece now, and let's get that glued into place. Nice and easy. There we go. Don't overdo it with the glue. Oh boy. And hopefully this glue is still tacky. I might have to reapply. We will see. Just line that up. It's kind of finicky. There we go. Okay. Well, that worked out. And then for this section here, we need one more green. It's going to go on like this. It's our final layer for the window. Go ahead and apply your glue there. And then we can put our little planter in place. We'll focus on the door next. Match that up as accurately as you can. There we go. Can't really put this side down on your table, but you have access underneath and through the top, so you can kind of get your fingers in there to help get it into place. Perfect. And then let's find our little planter. And again, you can foam square this if you want. I don't think I'm going to. I think this is enough dimension as it is. So I am just going to put glue on just the planter portion, not on the plants. I think that's plenty. And let's get that installed. Make sure it's level. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of wonky. There we go. Perfect. Okay, cute. We have this little piece here. What is this, a hexagon? I think it's a hexagon. It's going to go right over the top window. And then we can start building the door. And one side will be done for the most part. Okay. Just line that up. I guess we could have done that beforehand, but this is a tiny little piece. I'm not really worried about anything getting warped. Okay, perfect. And then let's build our little door here. And what we're going to do is take this layer and put it on top of the other red layer. And then there's some cutouts there. We have a little handle and then a nice little accent for the bottom as well. So I'll just slowly build that up. And I'm debating, I think we can probably put it together right away. That's fine. Look for this little piece here. That's going to go in the center. And you want to make sure you leave a little bit of an even border all the way around there in that section. And then you have two, this is where we're going to have to do some surgery. It's kind of like if you can't handle the super tiny little pill-shaped yellow piece here, just don't worry about it. Just use the larger one. But you're going to take the smaller one and place it in the center of the larger one to make it kind of two-layered. Try to get that good and centered, and then we'll flip that over and pop a little glue on there. This is the stuff that keeps you young.
Keeps you nice and young, and that's going to go in there like a little puzzle. Should fit perfectly right inside there. Okay, cool. And then we have these two little pieces, and this one's kind of skinny, but it's okay. Just do your best to get some glue in various sections here, especially at the bottom. And you may need to kind of dab this with your finger once you get the glue on there so it doesn't go squirting out all over the layer behind it. And again, if this is too much to work with, just ignore this piece and just put the other green one in, just the solid one. Okay, but this is going to go right on top of the other solid green. And that's again just to give this a little added dimension. This thing's kind of free floating, almost has a mind of its own. But it's definitely doable. Just take your time, get that aligned. I probably would just do the very bottom bit first. Get that aligned, and the rest of it should just kind of fall into place. Okay, then we're going to take this piece and get that glued onto our red currant portion of the door. Red currant being the color, the red color cardstock. And that's just going to go right around the perimeter. Make sure it's nice and flush so that we don't see any of that red poking out on the outside. Cool. That looks nice. Okay, and then at this point, you can glue this down flat, or if you want to add some more dimension, you can foam square it. I think this thing's got so much going for it that I don't really think you need to foam square it. I think it's going to look great as is. Okay, just match that up. I'm mostly focusing on the little circle for the window as a guide. Of course, making sure that it's straight and flush on the bottom as well. Okay, you can actually put that down on your surface, push down from the inside. Okay, let's take a look. That looks nice. And then we have a little wreath. Okay, and it's 2 layers. Just have to maybe rotate it a few times, figure out how it goes together, because it's not really a symmetrical piece. I think it's right there, maybe. Yep, that's the one, I think. And just rotate it a few times until it looks right. There we go. That's the way. Okay. Throw a few little dots of glue on the back of this. Try to avoid the areas where the holes are, where the little berries are showing through. And if you get too much on there, just thin it out with your finger. Pop that right on there, and there we go. And press that down. This is cut out of, I believe, the hunter green. There we go. And then you can attach that wreath however you want. It just goes right over the window. I am going to just use a few dots. Maybe just 4, that's fine. And pop that right over the window. There we go. So we do still have a roof to assemble on this, but I think we're going to keep the roof portion of this until pretty much everything is said and done. And let's take a look and see if there are any bricks that we can put in place here. Now you're going to want to find one that has a little fold. Okay. So like for here, you'll see a little marker, but then you won't see markers on the other side, and that's by design. But we're going to put one there. I like this. I don't know about you guys. I love doing little detailed things like this. I guess I could probably get into like doll houses, but I don't know. Not exactly sure that that's my thing, but this is fun. Okay, so we have another set of markers here. Not a huge deal if you don't get the exact correct one. But this one's fine. This one's offset, slightly off center. Not too far over, but just slightly. Okay, and the longer side is going to go on the face of the section with the door. Then the other one's going to go right over. Okay, let's see. We've got another one here. This one's going to have the tab offset a lot. Okay, like probably one that where the score mark is almost at the edge. Let's double check that. Yep. Little score mark on this one is almost to the very edge of one of the sides. Just barely, barely, barely folds over. There we go. Just like that. And then we have one here that looks like it's pretty much right down the center as far as the score mark. Let's check it before we wreck it. That looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be totally spot on. Just roughly. All these little details will all kind of come together once everything's done. There we go. And don't forget that these little score marks here are for a completely different piece, but that looks great. Okay. All right, while we're working on the bottom here, let's have a look at all right, while we're kind of wrapping up the bottom here, let's find this piece, okay, and you can see that this piece is going to go on just like this. Pretty straightforward. This longer side is going to go over one of those tabs. That tab from that little side piece. Okay, let's just do the one side first, and then we can always pull this back and get the other side in place. Let's move this out of the way. And of course, you just want to match this up, make it flush with the bottom, and then also just make sure you're not obstructing this little hole here. This is where your power cord is going to stick out if you're using a powered cord or a powered light, which I recommend. That way you don't have to change the batteries out. Batteries are expensive. I'd rather just get an LED light, plug it in, and just leave it, not have to worry about it. But of course, you know, it's big enough for an LED too, so whatever you want to do. All right, I'm going to fold this one over now. And if at any time you need to, of course, I'm just going to use a screwdriver since I have one handy here. Just use a dowel, kind of push that into the corner as far as it'll go. Perfect. And then, you know what, while we're here, we may as well just get our little Velcro dots out. And you really only need one. And just cut in half. Yeah. Just need one cut in half. Okay, and here's how this works. You peel off the backing on one side. Hey Siri, stop. And then we'll affix it right here. And then pull off the backing on another one, just on one side. And just right on this little section here. Okay, and then just going to peel off the other half of the protective backing. All right, let's finish up the little trim pieces here. And you have this long piece that's kind of curved at both ends, and that is going to go between the two little finger areas where our Velcro sits. And by the way, I think my camera may have cut off here while I was putting the Velcro in place. You just want to just make sure that the other half of the Velcro, you take the backing off and then just press it down and it should stick to these little openings here, or not the little openings, little finger areas. Next, we're going to take this piece and just get that nice and flush on top of that green, and it should perfectly butt up to these little handles, grips for the doorway. Okay, and then we have two more that have little curves on them, and one is going to go right here, like so. So let's get that in place. I think we could probably do both sections at the same time. Why not? It's a pretty small little piece. Just make sure you get it nice and flush. I'll say it again. There we go. And then the other half right there, right on top of that green. Should match up perfectly. There we go. And then finally, we have one more here. There we go. Line that up. And that's going to go right here. There we go. Perfect. All right, cool. All right, so a couple things we can do at this point. I just kind of decided that we're going to build a roof on this side here. Now, so there's one roof that is actually different than the other ones as far as color. This one, I believe, is gingerbread. Okay, this is the structure for the roof, and it's pretty straightforward. There's two little triangular tabs at the very bottom. We're going to put a little dot of glue on that triangular tab. Then we're going to tuck it back behind this little layer here, and this little piece that has that little point there. Just want to line that up so it matches this angle here. Sorry. You can actually put that down on your surface too and push from the inside. It's always handy to have a little dowel in case you get into little areas like this where it's kind of, you don't want to force your finger in there and then end up messing something up. You can use a little dowel for precision pushing. Okay, then we'll go over to the other side, do the same thing. Just throw a little bit of glue on that triangular tab, the small one there. And then tuck that under. Grab the little piece on the side and push that in place so it matches that angle. Just hold that briefly. You can put that down, push down with the dowel. There we go. Okay. And you end up with something like this. Now there's a series of little markers on here that are going to help us with the roof. The roof's very simple. And this will give you kind of a taste of what it's going to be like putting the roof on the rest of the house. Okay, so one thing you want to do here is you want to make sure that when we put this on, that we do it so that it's centered and nice and even. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply glue to this entire surface. I would maybe try not to get it too close to the very top there. And then what I would do is just throw a little glue here and then spread that nice and thin so that we don't accidentally get it shooting out. Okay, so pop that right on there. Just make sure you center it on there and then push that up as far as it'll go so it hides that red subroof. Make sure it's good and centered. There we go. You can push that down. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so you'll notice that there's a series of little markers on this as well. There, and there's some numbers along the center. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So you need to find pieces number 4. There's 2 of them. They're going to be the thickest ones. Okay, and there's going to be one that's a little bit thicker than the other. Okay, and they're going to go on top of each other. They're going to be flush at the top. So we technically can take the smaller one and glue it on top of the larger one first before we even install it. Okay, and you can feel free to go all the way down unless you want to kind of curl the shingles up. I'm not going to do that because there's so many. And I feel like if you start curling one, you might need to curl a bunch. I'm going to keep them nice and flat. I'm going to pretend that Santa has been doing a really good job maintaining his roof. All right, so you can see there's a 4 here and a 4 here. It's 4 little dashes in the shape of a square. And what we're going to do is take this and we're going to get this flush with that first set of markers there, like so. Okay, it's going to go on just like that. So you don't need to bring it all the way down to the shingles, just focus on the thicker area. Maybe just do a little bit right at the very edge. And we're going to line that up with the little markers, make sure it's flush on the sides. Just like that. Keep it just slightly below those markers. Make sure it's nice and level. There we go. Just like that. Okay, and then we're going to find 3. Piece number 3, and there should be 2 of them, one larger, one smaller. We're going to take the smaller one, glue it on top of the larger one, just like we did with 4. And I think you get the idea here. I'm just going to keep on going up the row. Make sure these are flush on top of each other. Like so, flush on the sides as well. There we go. Press that down. I did barely hit these with some ink. Okay, and then we'll glue this whole thing down using the next set of markers next to the Roman numeral 3. Right there. And then of course take a look at the actual shingles and make sure that the spacing on everything looks good. Go. You can push from the inside as well. Kind of help you get a better grip on that. There we go. And it kind of naturally creates some separation here and there, which is nice. And if you don't like it, you can always paint a little bit of glue under there, flatten it out, but I think that looks fine. So we're going to work our way to number 2. Take the smaller 2 and glue it on top of the larger 2, and then we'll get this installed. Make sure it's flush at the top on both of these. There we go. Press that down. There we go. Okay, we'll flip it over and apply our glue. Like so, and you can see the next set of markers is where we need to place this, just right below them, barely. If you could somehow dissect those markers and see the middle of them, like if you could take that thin little hair and slice it down the center, it's kind of where you want to place it. Okay, there we go. That looks good. All right, let's go to number 1. Grab the thin one, glue it on top of the thicker one. That looks pretty symmetrical and centered, so that's good. I'll pop that on top of this guy. And then that last piece that doesn't have a number, that's just going to go right up to the very top edge of the white. That's our last piece as far as the roof goes. And then we have a little bit of snow that we're going to add. Super simple. Okay, see the little marker there? Line that up. And everything will come together beautifully. There we go. Look at that. Very cool. All right, take your last piece here and apply your glue. We'll get that one installed. Now with this one, I'm gonna take and do a little line across the top, like so. And again, put this one right up there so it hides the white. Just right on top of that. And if it doesn't hide the white perfectly, it's okay because we're putting a little bit of snow on there anyway. And that should blend it nicely. There we go. And then this is our final little piece here. There's two that are roughly the same size. Look for the one that has a thicker amount of snow on the left. Okay, I'm gonna cut this out of a glitter. There we go. And again, we want this to be flush with the brown at the top, so we don't see any of that brown poking through. Just try to hide that as best as you can. There we go. All right. Cool. So the rest of the roofs are going to be very similar as far as workflow goes, so you got this. Okay, there is a half a brick right there that I kind of missed, so don't miss that. Throw a little glue on there. I mean, if you forgot it, probably would never even notice it was gone, but that does go there. Okay, cute. All right, so the back is pretty much done. This side is definitely now done. The front, you know what, let's build the roof for the front of this. Okay, so this piece here, very similar to what we just did. We're gonna take this little triangular piece and we're gonna tuck that behind this section here and press that down. Okay, kind of just forming the roof for this. There we go. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and put your glue on there. Bring that behind this longer section. There we go. Should go quick. Don't use too much glue. If you're using too much, it's like watching paint dry. And then we'll put some glue on this large tab here. Okay, we're going to tuck that behind this large segment and glue that into place. And just like with this one, we're using this white piece here as sort of the foundation for the roof. Again, it's got the numbering system on it, so this will go quick. Okay, there we go. Now this one you don't really have to worry about centering because, well, we're just using the, you know, the peak of the roof as sort of the guide. All right, so all we need to do here is apply some glue to this section here, throw some on the peak, run it down there. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to hold. Drop that right onto the peak. Make sure you're pushing it back as far as it'll go. And just kind of run your fingers along the very edge and let that set. Okay, so for the roof on this, it's going to go pretty much the same way as this, minus the fact that we, well, have two sides. Okay, so you can see the numbering starts with 3, so we're going to find 2 sets of these. You can see there's a total of 4. One's a little thinner, one's a little thicker, just like we did with the roof over there. We're going to take the thinner one and glue that flush. This is 3 going onto 3, flush at the top, like so. Okay, we'll do the same thing with the other 3, because like I said, we have 2 sides. So we're going to glue the 3s together, we're going to glue the 2s together, we're going to glue the 1s together, and then we have a cap and some snow, just like before. Okay, so there's my 3s. Here are the 2s. Okay, so you see one's thicker, one's thinner. Take this one, glue it on top of the thicker one, and create our twos. And then we'll begin installing them just like we did before. Super simple. And I was going to say, you're going to go through your pile of shingles and find the thinnest ones. Most of them have like a little curve on one side. These are flat on both sides, straight on both sides, and they are the exact thickness and diameter of this. So you really can't mess that up. When we get to the end where we're building the main roofs, there'll be a little more work to get everything organized, but it's not that bad. It's pretty self-explanatory because the sizes are different, the angles are all unique. Okay, this is my last one, gluing the skinnier one on top of the thicker one. Like so. Just make sure they're flush on the ends, flush at the top. And then this is our little end cap, and then there's our snow. All right, so you can see here, we're starting with 3. We're going to take 3 and glue it right up just underneath or on top of or somewhere in between the first set of little score marks. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you use, which 3 you use, they're both identical. And just make sure it's flush in the front, like so. There we go. Let's go over to the other side and get the other 3 installed. It's going to be a hot one in the studio today. I can feel it. Thought we were supposed to get a little bit of a break from the heat, but boy, was I wrong. Okay, there we go. Pop that on there. Beautiful. All right, now let's go over to the other side. Grab number 2. Apply your glue to number 2. And you can see that next score mark just above the 2 is where this is going to go. Press that into place. You can actually get your finger in there. There we go. Go over to the other side. Get the other 2 installed. Be very careful, take your time, enjoy the process. There we go. Make sure it's nice and flush on the front. Want everything to line up nicely. You can pop your fingers in there, push down from the inside, help it really get a hold. There we go. Now let's grab the 1. Okay. And the other one. There we go. And like I said, if you have separation between the shingles and you're not digging it, you can always grab a scrap piece of paper, paint a little bit of glue under there, and then just press that down. But we'll see how it looks at the end. And then grab your little end cap. Okay, we're going to put glue on the whole thing, maybe even some along this little peak there. Okay, and just follow that. Hey Siri, stop. Pop that right on there, like so. That looks cute. And then finally, this you can put on either side. You can do it this way, or you can flip-flop it and do it this way, whatever floats your boat. I'm gonna go this direction. And this is a nice glitter. Add a little bit of bling to the project. And we'll pop that right on there. All right, so that roof is done. That looks great. That roof is done. Like I mentioned here, I can see that this set of shingles has a little more separation than I would like. So again, you can take a scrap piece of paper, very thin, and literally just kind of tuck it underneath there. Just paint a little bit of glue on that, and then just give it a press. There, done. Cool. All right, so what's left here? All right, we have one more section here that we need to take care of. It's gonna be a little bit of work, but not too bad. Okay, it's this piece here, and the awning, we're gonna have the texture facing out. This is gonna be smooth, which is fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, this is gonna go on here like so. Okay, we're gonna keep a nice even border all the way around this, like that. So we can actually, get that glued into place right now. Let's go ahead and do that. And then we have to build a little awning, super simple, and then add some overlays to it. Again, super simple. But let's get this piece in place first. And as I mentioned, when you're popping this on, try to maintain an even border inside the windows, just like that. And this should be pretty much flush at the top to where the little canopy starts. Okay, there we go. Had a little bit of glue squirt out there, but no harm, no foul. Okay, and we have these three little pieces. Those are going to go in here to give this thing a little extra interest and dimension. So go ahead and just throw a tiny little bit of glue on there. And get that nice and centered. Should have an even border all the way around. There we go. And then two on the sides. And then we can start building the actual canopy. Kind of like real construction workers here, building a house. Starting on the main floor, working our way up. Adding little details and windows and accents. This is kind of what it's like. I would assume. I've never built a house, but it is pretty cool. Okay, so that's that, and you can see how this is going to work. This is going to go on like this. That looks nice. Almost looks like a diner. Kind of. Let's go. All right. Now, one thing we're going to need to do here to kind of relieve some of the tension on this is with a nice thick dowel. What I'm going to suggest you do is, and just be very careful here, I'm going to place the dowel right where the score line is. Okay, and then you're going to very gently lift this up. I might have to do it a few times. Don't rip it. Okay, you can see that kind of gave it a little bit of a curve. Probably just enough for what we need. Actually, more than enough. All right, what we're going to do then is take the little round part here. We're going to glue these triangular tabs to the outside of this. We have some little caps that we're going to put on there after the fact, so this just makes it a lot easier. Let's go ahead and begin with the one furthest away right here. Okay, pull that in and then glue that right on top of that little guy there. Just hold that in place. And I may or may not wait to actually install this because I feel like it could potentially just get damaged while we're working on other stuff. Now we just take and apply glue to the remaining 3 or 4, I should say. Hey Siri, stop. Okay, and if you make a mess here, it's okay. We got a little cap that's going to cover this up. Okay, glue that down. Just get all of them in place to help keep this thing shape. If you want, you can actually put that down on your surface. even grab a little dowel and push from the inside. Okay, there's that. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, starting with the tab furthest away. And tuck this in. Try not to get any glue on the top of this thing though. And hold it however feels most comfortable. Bring that tab down and press and hold. Just want to make sure that that one is nice and secure. That's it. Apply your glue to the remaining 4. Now realistically, I don't know how well a canopy like this would hold up in the North Pole, but whatever, it's our dream. We get to do it however we want, I guess. Okay, so there's that. That looks nice. And then to kind of give it a, an alternating sort of look and feel, we're going to go ahead and apply these little guys here. And I think it's red on the outside. It sure is. So we're going to grab the first one here, and that's just going to get glued on like so. Just want to make sure we keep it nice and straight. And if you want, just to kind of help this, you can actually just take this, place it between your finger and the dowel, lift it up about maybe 20 degrees and run the dowel through just to kind of give it a little bit of a curve so it's not fighting you so much. You're just stretching out the fibers in the paper so that it's not so rigid. Okay, so it's going to be red on the outside, and we're just going to alternate red, yellow. Make sure it's nice and straight and flush in the back and right on top of that layer where it needs to be. And we're just going to repeat this process all the way down until we have this thing complete. And I may just do a little assembly line sort of deal here. Just run all these through real quick, get that done. And we'll get these glued into place. There we go. Just take your time. Just match that up, and then again, make sure it's nice and straight on the back. There we go. And the next one. And then we, as I mentioned, have those little quarter circle pieces to go over that little section that we use to glue the tabs to hide all that. Just makes it easier when you can glue the tab to the outside. And that's why we do it that way. That looks nice. Don't forget to alternate. And of course, you can make this whatever color you want. We've already talked to 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop. They're gonna create some kits for these. And you can make them exactly how we did, but I always love seeing your interpretation of everything. It's always interesting to see how you guys imagine it. And hopefully I have enough of these. I might have lost one in the process. If I did, just imagine that I didn't, but I don't think I did. I think it's gonna be fine. I was very meticulous about getting everything organized for the assembly. Here we go. Yep, and I got just the right amount. Perfect. Yeah, and like I said, I think I'm gonna wait to put this on until maybe the rest of the building is mostly together, just because I feel like something might happen in the process, and I don't want to ruin this cute little canopy or awning. There we go. All right, see? That looks cute. And then as I mentioned, we have these little pieces here, and those are going to go right on the ends to cover up. Why is this such a brain teaser for me right now? There we go. Might have to rotate it or grab the other one just to make sure you're getting the right one in the right spot, because it's not a perfectly cut piece of pizza. It is slightly different on one side. Okay, get that on there, cover it up nicely. There we go. Put that down on your surface, grab yourself a little dowski. And press that right into place. Beautiful. And grab the other end, get that installed. And I think we are officially done with the assembly on the first floor now. So I might just break this video up into first floor, second floor, just so you guys have an easier time breaking it down as well. There we go. Okay, so ultimately what we're going to do towards the end is just apply glue to this whole thing, and then that is just going to get glued right here to finish that off. Okay, and there you go.